Scrutiny Panel meeting on 29th of July 2024. I'm Councillor Makbule Gunes. I'm the chair of this committee. I'm going to briefly take a brief introduction from all the colleagues who are present, who are here first. We will start with you, Anna.
Good evening. I'm Councillor Abela from Haringey Ward.
Good evening. I'm Councillor Lawton from Hermitage and Gardens Wood.
Evening, Councillor George Dunstall from Stroud Green.
Good evening, Councillor Mark Ruscott from South Tottenham Ward.
Thank you for that. Yeah, Philip, can we?
Yeah, my name is Philip Slover. I'm the scrutiny officer for this panel.
Anne Graham, Director of Children and Young People Services.
Bev Hendricks, Assistant Director for Safeguarding Children.
Jane Edwards, Assistant Director for Schools and Learning.
Yeah. Also, we've got online joining us is Councillor Adumu and other officers as well. Councillor Adumu, we'll start with you.
I'm Jean Adamo. I'm a councillor from Haringey Ward, a member of this panel. Thank you, Chair.
Jackie.
Evening, everyone. Jackie DeFalco, Assistant Director for Early Help Prevention and SEND.
Nobody else, so it's just Councillor White's just listening to the meeting.
Okay, so no courtees. Okay, great. Thank you, everyone, for that. Yeah, can I just refer all those present to the, in regards to the filming, by attending this meeting, you are consenting to be filmed, and yeah, so that's just refer you to the item. Any apologies of absence, Philip?
No, Chair, I've not had any apologies for absence.
Right, thank you for that. Any declaration of interest? No. Are there any items of urgent business?
No, Chair, there are no items of urgent business.
Item 5, deputation, petition, presentation and questions.
None, Chair.
Item 6 is the minutes of our last meeting. Are those who are present here, and are we happy with are we happy to approve the minutes of the last meeting? I know for some of you this is your first meeting, but those of us who were there, we're kind of happy to approve the meetings. Okay, minutes approved. Item 7 is the Youth Justice Plan for 2024 to 2027, and it's for 3 years. We will ask Jackie DeFalco, who is joining us online, to give us a brief presentation of the priorities and of the strategy. Then we will move to question and answers. I would suggest if all of us could keep our responses and presentation quite short. I mean, it's a very detailed and very thorough report, so I'm guessing there will be more questions as well. So I just want to make sure I facilitate all the questions. Thank you, Jackie. You can begin your presentation.
Thank you, Chair. If you have any troubles with hearing me, and I'll transfer to my phone. So members, this plan is in terms of the reason why it's come here today, it's for noting, but also for you to provide any comments in advance of it going to full council for approval. So within England, statutory youth justice plans have to be approved by full council, and then they have to be published and sent to the Youth Justice Board by the 30th of June each year. However, in advance, they can be approved by the chair of the Youth Justice Strategic Partnership Board, which was done with our director Anne Graham on the 26th of of June. So the Youth Justice Partnership agreed that this was the right plan for us to go forward for the next 3 years. It is a statutory duty for each local authority to develop a plan, agree setting out how the services will be delivered, how they will be funded, and in particular, local authorities have to at least match fund the contributions from the Youth Justice Board and partners, and it has to talk about how the service will operate and the functions it will be discharging over those 3 years. In terms of this plan, there is, and this is a partnership plan, but there is a detailed service plan that sits underneath this, and both plans are accountable to the Youth Justice Strategic Partnership Board. We are a regulated service, so the Youth Justice Service last had their most recent inspection in May 2021, but that was just a thematic inspection on a particular area of work. We are expecting a full inspection imminently within the next couple of months at the most. So in terms of progress against our plan for the last year, there's a number of things that I wanted to highlight that we're really proud of. So we've been doing a lot of work to create a closer interface between our strategic leadership and also our operational service structure. And so some of the ways that we have done that is that we have engaged members of the Youth Justice Management Board in doing national standards audits. So looking at those 5 areas that I talked about earlier in my presentation, and board members being really focused on scrutinising and providing that positive scrutiny and challenging, are we delivering against these national standards that we're expected to?
Sorry, Jackie, we're having problem with connection again. We can't hear you properly.
Work with our board members and partners within the Youth Justice Service themselves, that we're doing joint visits to
Jackie, if you can hear us, it might be better if you try on your phone, or as a step to that, turn your camera off to help with the bandwidth. But I think it's frozen. I think she's going to have to come in again. Oh, yeah, Jackie. Okay.
I can hear everyone fine, but I will join on my phone now.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Excellent.
You can hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Lovely. Okay. Apologies about that, colleagues. I've just transferred to my phone. So in terms of some of the key successes from this over the last year, I think I was just talking about the work that we're doing between board members and the Youth Justice Partnership itself. So operational services in bringing those to have a closer interface together. So we've done a lot of joint auditing work, but we've also done a lot of visits to services such as the custody estate within Wood Green Custody Suite. We've also gone to Feltham Youth Offenders Institute, and we're also looking to go to Oak Hill Secure Trading Centre. So doing lots of joint visits together to understand the experience of young people, hear from their experience and use that to inform future developments. We've also moved as a board to a thematic approach. So we're looking at particular areas of importance within the Youth Justice Partnership Board, just having a real deep dive, understanding some of the issues, and then providing a partnership response to tackle some issues. So the areas that we've looked at so far have been health, education, and children in custody. Really pleased that we have had some things that we've really tried to work hard on over the last year that have been a problem for some time. So we have recruited to key posts, which includes a CAMHS nurse and a speech and language therapist. And through our health screening tool, every young person who comes into the service has a health screening assessment and accesses those health services right from the start of intervention, rather than waiting for the assessment to determine what their needs are. Something else we're really proud of is we've worked closely with the Dusty Knuckle Bakery on a 5-week training programme for our children who are in the Youth Justice Service but not in employment educational training. We went to a really great celebration event, and one of our young people secured permanent employment as a result of engaging on that 5-week programme. We've done lots of work around improving our parenting offer, so really listening to our parents and carers of children that we're working with to understand what the things that they would like support with, and particular topics came through such as criminal child exploitation. So we're doing a lot of work around that and mental health. We've completely redesigned our Youth Justice building. So if you've seen it on Station Road, you see a very colourful building on the outside. That was redesigned by young people, children and young people themselves, reflecting their experiences and their aspirations of living in Haringey. And we're now working on the inside of the building to make it a much more user-friendly place for both staff and children. Something else that we're really proud of is we achieved the Youth Justice Send Quality Lead status award. So we had a Child First commendation for our work with children with SEND. And then the last thing just to highlight to you is that we looked at all of our exit interviews completed with children who have received an intervention from us, and on the main they were very, very positive, talking about the best part of their work with us was their relationship with their youth justice practitioner, being able to talk through their problems and getting help with education in particular. So in terms of our national indicators, we have 3 statutory indicators and 10 additional indicators, and you'll find them within Appendix A. I won't go into those in detail, but essentially the 10 indicators reflect a significant piece of work across the country where all youth justice partnerships have to report on things such as serious youth violence incidents, work with children with SEND in the Youth Justice Service, and in particular they have a key focus on making sure that statutory partners are engaged with the work of this Youth Justice Partnership going forward. So in terms of our 3 statutory indicators, what we saw in the last year is that we did have an increase of children in the first time entrance to the youth justice system compared with the previous years. The increase was 6%, but in real terms, that relates to an increase of 3 children. So although it does mark a slight increase, it is actually a decrease of 7% compared to the previous 3 years. When you compare us with our yacht family, so that's our 9 local areas that have same demographic as us, and our London averages, we are performing, comparably 9th out of our 11th families and 28 out of 31 across the London estates. But what I would say is that it is a much smaller cohort, so it only takes, 1 or 2 children to be able to really skew the figures. In terms of reoffending, a very good success story for Haringey. So we have a reoffending rate of 1/3 of children go on to reoffend. So that's 24 children from a cohort of 78 committed 54 reoffences between them. But that is we are one of the best performing in our yacht family and across London. So we are 7th lowest in London completely, and that's significantly better than the London rate, but also the England rate. And in terms of custody, we had a reduction of 44% compared with the previous year, and that relates to 5 custodial sentences. It is a minor decrease compared to 3 years ago. We track it on a 3-year cycle, but we are still considered to be poorer in comparison with our yacht families and our London, our average London data. That is because actually when you look at the reasons that young people have been sentenced to custody, whilst it is always seen as a last resort and we always look at alternatives, it is absolutely directed as offences that are considered so serious. So in this case, murder, weapon and robbery offences. In terms of our young people at risk strategy, we've aligned this closely with the work of the Youth Justice Partnership Board now, and we reviewed our strategy in the last year and produced a 3-year action plan with a successful launch event earlier this year. And that plan really builds on the work of all of the findings of the audits that were done within the service, the work that we've done across the partnership to understand teen violence, and all of the work that we've done through direct work with children and parents and carers themselves around what they believe to be the priorities. So table 2 just highlights 7 key priorities that we'll be focusing on in the next 3 years. We've moved to a 3-year model for our plan because essentially replicating what other boroughs have done and across the country, having a plan for 1 year doesn't allow us to really complete some of those more comprehensive areas that we need to really work through in a much deeper level. So this has enabled us to really think about how we can realistically target some of these, real significant issues over a 3-year period. And that's all I was going to cover in the report itself. There's a lot more detail in there, and as you can see, there is quite a comprehensive 3-year plan attached. What I would say is for anyone that received it last year, it has reduced by about 40 pages. So we've tried really hard to condense it, but it is very reflective and typical of other plans across the country and within London. Happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you very much for that, Jackie. It's a great report. Obviously, it's very long and detailed, but it's got lots of really useful and good information. I'm going to basically open it to question now, but before I kind of ask anyone else for their question. I just wanted to make a couple of comments. Like, I think I was really impressed with like the questionnaire and the return, like the voices of children or young people or their experience, and having one-to-one support with their kind of case manager. It helps them a lot and it helps them to focus. So that's a really good sort of feedback from young people. But one of my question was sort of on basically, obviously the whole point of this strategy is that all the work, all this detailed work is to kind of prevent more young people coming into the youth justice system in first place. And despite the best intention in the world, sometimes that might not be possible. But I was just I was kind of curious about some of these new cases that are coming into the youth justice system. And two areas in particular were quite alarming for me, like 19% of them, it's for drugs related offenses, and 17% it's violence, sort of violence to the person. So the combination of two, then obviously the report goes on to talk about how it's planning to kind of safeguard or try to protect the young people from becoming victims to the gang members. And I mean, I'm just basically reading that some of the, I just wanted to have basically your thoughts on that. I mean, that is quite worrying because majority of other cases is for minor kind of criminal offenses and so on. But does that mean prevention is not as effective as we would like to be, or the partners are not just your view on that would be really good. And my second question is on, again, disproportionality. And this report obviously quite uncomfortably highlights that the disproportional young people who identify as Black are more likely to be disproportionately impacted by criminal justice system. So I know this few years ago, this was a issue for, it was a thematic area that was some major improvements were recommended. And I know there was a lot of work that Bev and you oversaw. I just wanted to, like have your view on that area, that why is the disproportionality still kind of there in some ways? Okay, I'll leave that, but I will obviously ask my colleagues if they wanted to ask question as well. So.
Councillor Adam's had a hand up.
Yes, what was that? Okay, Gina, I'm going to ask you to ask your question first, then I'm going to move to Mark. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. My question is on the looked after children. If you can say a little bit about the work you do with the looked after children, so they don't fail, because they are vulnerable, I think. And I was wondering if there is any special piece of work you're doing to prevent looked after children getting into trouble? Thank you.
Great. I was going to say, Gina, there is actually a presentation on performance of related to our looked after children. But if your question is, this is specifically about youth justice, but if you're kind of like sort of thinking about what's youth justice, how are they represented in the youth justice, or what kind of supports are they getting within the youth justice, then we could look in. That's a question, but we have a substantial items.
My question is, looked after children, there are a lot of young teenagers, and they often get into trouble because they're vulnerable. And I was wondering if there are any programs or any kind of special support, or what that the department is working with those young people to prevent them offending, or if they have offend once to not to repeat it, basically.
Great, thank you for that. Mark?
So I'm looking, I'm looking at the 3.2 reoffending. So I'm really pleased that you put in the number of children, because when you talk about percentage, you talk about 30%. It sounds wow, but really 24 children is actually quite good. My question is, why these? Do you know why these children are reoffending, and what are we doing to help them? What ideas are we bringing to the table?
Yes, we can start with the question, then we'll, sorry, I'll start with the answers, then we will move to more question. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So in response to the reasons really why we've got children experience and the issues they have and come into the attention of the Youth Justice Service, they're very similar in relation to all of the issues that you've raised in terms of reoffending and the cohort. So we know that some of our data is on a lag nationally, but when we look at our local data, we can see that this cohort of children are still significantly impacted by the factors that we have in Haringey. So, you know, deprivation, cost of living, mental health in particular, poverty. So they are all additional factors that our children are facing as they come into the Youth Justice Service. So they're things that we're working with families through a whole family approach. So one of the key things we've done over the last year within our prevention part of Youth Justice, and we'll be embedding this within the statutory part of the Youth Justice Service, is the whole family work. So making sure that we're not just working solely with the child, but with their whole family to address the factors that they're experiencing in the family to improve overall outcomes. In terms of disproportionality, in terms of the response to that, we have that we haven't had a CAMS resource for some time. So our director, Anne, has been very challenging of our partnership to make sure that we are providing those resources. And through that, we've been able to secure full-time permanent resources from our CAMS service, substance misuse and speech and language therapy service that have been joint funded. We haven't had that for some time, and that has meant that we've not been able to provide some of the targeted response that we want to, but we do feel that moving forward, and that's going to really support our cohort of children going forward, because we know that they are the key issues that are factors within their lives. In terms of the disproportionality, we've done a lot of work. So we are funded by MOPAC through the Disproportionality Fund. We have tailor-based interventions for Black young men in particular. So we commissioned something called the Ether program, which is focused on raising aspirations and improving experiences for Black children. We have had completed substantial training with all of our Youth Justice Service, but also our wider partnership around disproportionality and inequality. That's been some very recent training that's helped us to think about how we change our language, the way that we engage with young people, right down to our paperwork and processes. A good example of that is where we've changed our pre-sentence report so that we make sure that we have a strengths-based approach, that we are reflecting the differences for children, the experiences that they're having. So when they go into the court arena, that is considered as part of any sanctions that may be applied. And we also have a trauma-based informed approach work that we do across the service, so make sure we fully understand what's going on for that child in order to be able to make sure that we provide an appropriate response. And then in terms of looked after children, so there has been an improvement. So on average, there is around been a third of our cohort are children who are looked after, either because they come into remand and become a looked after child, or because they are looked after to begin with prior to coming into the Youth Justice Service. That has reduced to a quarter of our cohort, so a slight reduction. But the things that we are doing, so you'll see from the report that one of our key priorities for the next 12 months is to have a dedicated focus on improving the experiences and outcomes for children who are looked after, and also in the Youth Justice Service. And that equally applies to our children with SEND too. So some of the things that we are doing is we have some dedicated resources, we have targeted interventions. You'll see from Appendix A that we are now reporting on a number of indicators to make sure that we improve education, employment and training, improve wellbeing outcomes, mental health and reduce substance misuse. They are reported to the Corporate Parenting Board, which I sit on representing the Youth Justice Service, and we make sure that we provide regular updates on that area of work, on the outcomes for children, and have that subject to scrutiny and challenge. I think that's covered all of the questions. Did I miss anything?
The reoffending one, Jackie, was that one covered? Sorry if I missed it. I think you might have covered
Oh,
it.
the reasons for reoffending. I mean, I would say that they're largely the same, Councillor Grosford. It's the reasons that I cited in the beginning. So although we do have one of the best reoffending rates, so some of that's really been around how we have targeted that cohort of children to look at the reasons and understand why they're reoffending, and then to tailor interventions. The reasons for that reoffending tends to be exactly the same as what I said at the start. So around cost of living, poor parenting, increased deprivation, and mental health issues.
Great, thank you for that. We've got more questions, but before I can sort of, George, I'll get you to ask your question, just to check if what Anne wanted to say is in relation to those earlier questions.
Thank you, Chair. I will add to what Jackie said. And sorry, Jackie, if I missed it. And that's that we live in a context where crime and drugs, crime related to drugs, is prevalent. And if we could eradicate crime related to drugs, that would really help our young people tremendously. A lot of the way that we see our young people inducted into crime is through them being groomed into the drugs industry. We know that they are up and down the country to do with contextual safeguarding and so on. So that's a massive driver, not just for our young people, but for our population as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you for that. George?
Thank you very much. That actually, apologies. That tees me up perfectly, Anne. I was just wondering about how we work with young people who are being groomed into criminal exploitation. Sorry, yeah. How we work with young people that are being, any young person that is found to be selling drugs or whatever is effectively being exploited in some way, or there has been some exploitation along the way. So what we're doing to kind of what other agencies we work with, so around good practice and that kind of thing, like third-party agencies. I've worked in this arena myself and know, the Children's Society do a lot of work in this space and that kind of thing. Second thing is a bit more granular. There's a big discussion here about restorative justice, and that's great to see. And I'd love to hear a bit more about that. One little thing that I have seen as I walk my dog in the mornings is lots of young people in high vis with community payback on the back of their high vis. That terminology, this might just be a subjective view, to me is in slight contradiction to a lot of the very good stuff that is in here about child-led interventions and support. I'm just wondering how we've ended up with community payback as the language we use, because I think language is important in this stuff. Thanks.
Jackie, would you like to come in? Okay, lovely, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So in terms of working with children who are victims of child criminal exploitation, you're absolutely right. We do work with a whole range of partners. So what I could certainly share for the minutes is the Young People at Risk strategy, and that outlines at least 30 to 40 different partners that we are working with to reduce serious youth violence in the borough. But as an example, if we do have children who where we think there is child criminal exploitation, we will obviously make a referral to our targeted CCE team within our social care service if they meet that threshold, or within the early help service. So within the youth service, we have a small CCE team as well. But we work with voluntary sector agencies such as Godwin Lawson Foundation, Insight Platform, who are seconded with us and they work with us. So when I talked about the health screening assessment at the start of my response to the questions, if that determines that there is an issue with substance misuse or exploitation, we'll make sure we pull in those partners as part of a team around the family approach. But I will circulate that to Philip for the minutes so that you can see the range of providers that we work with. In terms of restorative justice, you make a really good point about terminology, and if that's something that we have referenced within this report. It's something I'll take away and relook at. Our children don't wear the vest. It's not visible that they are doing reparation in the way that we would traditionally see with adults. It's seen more as a volunteering experience, and we try to match their interests with a range of volunteering projects. And we have about 30 different projects that we get them involved in, because the hope is that through those projects they then might secure and do some further volunteering in their own time, or maybe some training or employment attached to that. We're always looking for ideas of other reparation work to get involved in. So we're exploring doing some rooftop community gardens in some of our council buildings. I'm very happy to hear of any other ideas, but I will take that away and look at the terminology. Thank you.
Yeah, George.
It may well be that these are older young people than I'm very, very bad at judging ages these days as I get older myself. So it may well be that, as I say, they're older young people or adults.
And if I may add, Chair, that we the council, wouldn't, but the reparations, I think the scheme, the people who, they would be through the court service, people doing their hours. I've not seen them myself, but we do have strong links with the probation service. And so perhaps, Jackie, we can just double check that our young people, as you say, are not, some of our young people do go over the age of 18, and they'll be known to our children in care service still. So we can just double check that they're not treated in that way, that they operate with a language that cares approach. And we know that self-esteem is really important to how we manage ourselves in the world. And so therefore treating people with kindness is fundamental to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Any other questions, colleagues? No? Okay, so I'll bring this discussion to, Anne, you wanted to come in.
Just to say that I'd just like to thank Jackie for all her work in getting this report together, and particularly the new look report that's come through comms. We've not had something as jazzy as this, so I cannot wait to see the colour version, Jackie. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And yes, I also wanted to echo what Anne said. I just wanted to thank Jackie and her team and everyone who was involved with producing this brilliant report. Any comments that I suppose we note the report and we recognize the hard work that's gone in, but we also recognize the future challenges and some challenges in some areas, which we need to keep an eye and make sure, obviously, there are improvements as well. I think I also welcome the idea of 3-year strategy, because then you could properly assess where you started and where you end, or which direction you are going. But just to say thank you to you, Jackie, and to your team, everyone involved. Now we are ready to move to our next item. It's the performance update. In my
I think it's actually, yes, it's a Bev, so I think the update is specific to safeguarding and social care. So I think Beverly will give it.
Okay, Beverly will introduce the report, and any questions that we might have, we will direct to Beverly as well. Thank you, Beverly.
The report in your pack, starting at page 83, agenda item 8, provides a quarter snapshot for the quarter of 2023-2024. And where we've been able to, we have provided updates up to May 2024. This scrutiny panel will have a full year performance, social safeguarding performance report, and it's probably agendaed and scheduled anytime from September, but we'll have a look at the exact dates in the next agenda planning meeting. So if I introduce the reports, say that the first thing is that there was a challenge some years ago around the numbers of children in care in Haringey. And for those who are involved in Scrutiny and the Corporate Parenting Advisory Committee, you'll remember there was a lot of work done to ensure that the children coming into care, that Haringey was not an outlier. And so Section 4.1 sets out that as of March 2024, there were 334 children in care, and that this was 29 fewer than the March 2023. Now, the reasons for that really lend itself to the work that we've been doing around reunification, the Edge of Care strategy, where we have worked with people like the Brandon Centre, Family Psychology Mutual, to ensure that intensive work happens with families 3 days a week over a year's period. So the challenges that the data will go on to talk about later on in this report are addressed, and children can return from care to their family settings. .2 raises the concerns regarding the low numbers of unaccompanied asylum seekers that are open to Haringey. Now, it's important for me to use this opportunity to say that that's not for the want of trying to support local authorities like Croydon, Kent, Hillingdon, and the direct work with the Home Office. So Haringey always takes its quota from the National Transfer Scheme. And we've reached out to other local authorities to assist them where you hear pressures that are often reported in the media. But we are still below our target. And when I compare us to our neighbouring boroughs, so are they. We have something in common there. So we have arranged now from the 1st of September to hold a discussion with the Home Office for 2 reasons. First, that we really want them to to look at their commitment to local authorities to process our unaccompanied asylum seekers so they have interim leave to remain. There's a bit of a backlog in the Home Office, and some of our unaccompanied asylum seekers are waiting far too long beyond their 21st birthday to have interim leave to remain or for a final decision to be taken about their immigration status. So that's the first thing we want to address with them. And second, we want to look at the National Dispersal Scheme to see for those local authorities who have not taken their quota, and indeed for those who have geared up to take closer to its quota, whether this can be achieved. We think that there was a fundamental change in the system, and it went from a quota of 1%, just for argument's sake, to 2%. And local authorities across the country have identified a systems issue and not being able to fulfil their targets under the new dispersal quota, with boroughs, areas like Kent and others really bearing the pressure of unaccompanied asylum seekers who needs to be cared for. If I take it to 4.4, and this is under the section around children that cease being looked after. So of the 361 looked after children at the end of December 2023, 40 are aged 3 or under. So Haringey has 2 age cohorts that we see coming into care. 3 years and under babies, pre-birth notification is working rather well. And we do a lot of work around permanency through adoption or permanency through SGs. And that can mean that some children, whilst the court process is in play, are seeing more than 1 or 2 placement moves. And then we have adolescents. The majority of children coming into care where parenting is collapsing is post-puberty. And that's the area that our Edge of Care strategy has been strengthened, and we're trying to do some intensive work around. It's a piece of work that we are really keen on rolling out, and we have started to some degree, is trying to identify those ACE factors affecting our adolescents, because typically when they're coming into care because of contextual safeguarding risks and not necessarily because of abuse or neglect. I'll draw you to section 4.10, I mean, in this throughout the reports, there are some strengths that it's right to just draw out today. That we really did some work with this with our agencies that looked after system and those involved as agents in that system to offer stability to up to 292 children in that last year, and 87 of our children, our stability index tells us, have remained in their placement, matched to loving homes, as Josh McAllister will describe it, for over 12 months. We have a growing number of children because of the work that we do through our First Steps Tavistock provider, working with the foster carer and direct work with the children. The work that we do with the Anna Freud around using a tool called the Berry, that's assessing the placement type and need. So we get a little more granular insight psychologically onto the profile of the carer and the child. And that informs our care plan, and we've seen that having a direct impact on the stability that we're offering to children in care. I'll draw out one or two more, and then we will, and then I'll open up for questions if that's okay. There was a question in the debates earlier on around proportionality and and disparity. We are still seeing the numbers of children that come into care, either under threes or in adolescence, are disproportionately children from Black and global majority communities. And so there is a plethora of work that's happening underneath to understand where disparity starts and what we need to do to around that earlier prevention to prevent those needs escalating. There's a piece of work that Anna's led this council into with the Met, addressing stop and search and some of the disparities around there. We don't talk about it much in this committee, but we also do some work with the Met around police protections and the footprint of children on the police database that builds up a risk profile when children may not have been stopped for any criminal offences. So we're really taking this quite seriously. In the Youth Justice Service, Jackie's already explained the kind of some of the innovation in the Youth Justice Service. And we support that partnership as best we can and wholeheartedly. But we do know that there are some 73 children that 28 children of those open to the Youth Justice Service are known to be children in care, children on child protection plans, and children in need. Now, when we identify them, a recently revised protocol really focuses on those levels of vulnerability and invests in the investment with not just them, but with their families and the community. So we use that family group conferencing, and we've been doing work with the community aunties who are really able to engage with children at the very harsher end of the business, where county lines and they've been exploited for county lines. So that's the performance report. The highlights are. We're happy to take any questions.
Great, thank you very much for that, Beverly. Yeah, Councillor Dansel.
Thank you very much. Really, really detailed and really, really interesting. Forgive my ignorance. This is my first one of these. But I've got 3 or 4 questions on 4.5, the bar chart.
Yes.
I was just interested as to how the abuse and neglect bars broke down in terms of the nature of that. The second point or question I had was 4.6 and 4.7. It seemed those percentages seem quite low to me for care plans in date. So I don't know whether we're moving in the right direction, whether we're moving in the wrong direction, whether that fluctuates. Excuse me, quarter by quarter. So some context there would be really useful. And I wonder, as I say, first one, so do tell me that I'm overstepping. I wonder whether in future it might be possible to have some period before as well.
Yeah. Contrast.
Sorry, just so I know whether or not we're moving in the right direction or we're moving away from the direction and get a bit of a picture for.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly that. And lastly, sort of linked to that, and I might be drawing inaccurate conclusions, but I just wondered whether or not what our vacancy and agency staff rate was and whether that has an impact on care plan percentages. I'm going to stop there actually, but yeah. Thank you. Of course, yeah.
So in answer to your first question, could we have the trends and contrast? Of course. And that's in relation to the 4.5 for the minutes, Philip, that we will provide comparison. And you can see in the chart that we've looked at the last 12 months, we've looked at our statistical neighbours and what it looks like for England. And I think that what you're asking for is more localised information to say in period 3, what did it look like as in contrast to this one, period 4? Yes, of course. 4.6, 77% of children with an up-to-date care plan. Our target for the service is 85%, so we are below our target. When I look at the reasons why, many of them have to do with the unavailability to have the care plans updated in the time frame that they're set to be updated. Often they're about 4 to 3 days, working days out, but also they're linked to the staff sicknesses. So we don't have huge vacancies at all in our children and care team. We took a decision in Haringey not to carry vacancies. So if we haven't got the permanent workers in, we do use agency route to make sure that we've got competent and skillful staff in. So that's the reason that we see, that's my analysis, looking at those cases as to why the care plans have not been met on a timely way. Some of them are also attributable to the period where we introduced the new liquid, a new liquid logic system, a new recording system, and there continue to be some challenges in the implementations around us being able to upload the care plans in a timely manner. So that technical glitch is clear, and I hope when you see the next quarter reports, you'll see that it's that's accounted for and it's increased. And it's the same for 4.8. Did you say that you felt that the performance looked low? 4.7. So it's linked to the same technical challenges and the same issues. So if our care plans are low, then the children knew it has a knock-on effect around staff sicknesses. So sometimes because of our decision making, we've said we will bring agency workers in to hold cases, or we will disperse the cases to other workers with lower caseloads. Sometimes if there's a delay of 2 weeks to do that while we wait to hear what the issues are, it can have an impact on the timeliness. Yeah. What I can assure is the team managers and the service managers will always review, but we again don't take a decision for a team manager or a service manager to complete the care plan, because that's the social worker's role. And you start to get into questions about the meaning of a care plan if somebody else who doesn't know the child starts to construct it.
Right, and you wanted to also come in, please do.
I think that when we come back with this report, Philip, if you can have it an action for me to be sure we give some narrative here, because it's a hard deadline, and it absolutely, as Bev says, that we could absolutely get to 100%, but there will be plans that may not be of quality. And I would rather that we had qualitative plans and they took a day or two because somebody had other priorities. But what we need to have panel know is that it is the latter. There used to be a time when we were required to do assessments of children in need at the front door within, it was a 45-day deadline, and local authorities up and down the country, there was a bar chart of who did it and who didn't, and I remember being completely shocked when a London local authority, because I was doing Bev's job, said they did theirs in 100%, what are they doing that I'm not? So I phoned them up and they were just playing the game, you know, oh yeah, we'll do an assessment, that's it, done. But the quality of the work was not there. So off they realised this wasn't helpful and they changed the nature of it. So now there are bandings through which you can do. There isn't a deadline, but you know, no longer do they chase this and then markers accordingly. So I just want you also to be assured that every child that should have a plan has a plan, and it's a meaningful plan that we work to. It's that timeliness that we need to reach our own targets. There's one thing there's one thing not having them as high as they are, but it's another not reaching our own targets. So we have to do that too. Thank you.
Great, thank you for that. Any other questions? Councillor Abella.
You mentioned, Bev, that we haven't met our target for the number of unaccompanied asylum-seeking children to be settled within the borough. And if I understood you correctly, this is partly due to a backlog in asylum application processing. The Home Office.
No, but yes, but no, actually. So the issue with the Home Office processing asylum applications really relates to children who age out at 18 and they become care leavers if they've been in the system to qualify. And what we're finding is that we used to have a system where, because of judgments like Clue, we were able to put pressure. It was a piece of case law where the Home Office was judicially reviewed, and it was found that they were in contravention of their timeliness duty to process applications for people with no recourse to public funds, unaccompanied asylum seekers and others. So there was a sea change and they started to meet a target that before an unaccompanied asylum seeker hit the age of 21 and it was likely for them not to be age disputed and remain in this country, that the Home Office would prioritise processing their application for at least interim leave to remain. Post-COVID, what we've seen is a return to the former Clue judgment where the Home Office is under pressure and they're not processing those applications in the same way. So that's why we have asked for a discussion with them, with others, to talk to understand what is happening, because the pressure on the local authority is that we end up having to support adult unaccompanied asylum seekers with care leavers rights beyond 21. And so that has a knock-on effect on accommodation, on subsistence, because they can't claim benefits, and their ability to work and to live an independent life away from the local authority. Most of them do really well in their education, and so they are people who could add a lot of value to our community, but they're not allowed to do so because we're waiting for these judgments that the applications to be cleared. So we're going to take that up at this level, and then through Councillor Brabazon if we don't win, but I don't think that's going to be the case.
Like follow up.
Yes, please do.
So if this backlog is not the reason the council has not met its target, is there a particular reason why we haven't? And maybe I'll just finish my questions in one go just to make sure we stay on time. Perhaps I should know this, but I don't. Are the targets for the number of unaccompanied asylum-seeking children that the local authority should set by the local authority, or are they set by central government?
Central.
So is it the same? Do all local authorities have the same target, or is the government taking into account different factors to set a target for different local authorities?
And forgive me, Councillor, I should have said you asked the question originally in two parts. I answered part one, not part two. But the us not meeting our quota as set by central government is not something I can blame the Home Office for entirely. The us not meeting our quota has means that for us, there are challenges with the national transfer scheme. So Haringey has reached out to those local authorities that I've previously named and taken and asked them if they need help, send us, because we're geared up to take more. However, we want to do this benchmarking piece of work because whilst we're doing that, we're still not meeting our quota. And my soft conversations with those in the North Central London region is they are also struggling in this area too. So there must be something in the system that is preventing. You hear a lot of reports in the media around unaccompanied asylum seekers needing places, but there's boroughs like us who are taking our quota every month from the National Dispersal Scheme and reaching out to other local authority, but our data tells us, and it is accurate, that we're not hitting the target set by central government. So something's not right in the system.
Just to add to what Bev said, as Bev has set out, we're really keen to be sure that young people come to us as they should come to us. And this is a historic and complicated situation. So the quota was 0.07 for the number of, as a ratio of the number of children in your care. And London and there are about 8 regions across the country. And so London as a region was doing better than some other regions elsewhere in the country. And so the government tries to distribute, this is the national transfer system, children across the country. And so this, due to the changes that Bev said, the ratio changed to 0.1%. So we, in time, I think might get there, although the process of getting there is slow as the system across the country works. And Bev's right. Sometimes, we get, asked for help from other local authorities, particularly those close to ports, and we absolutely are on the phone quickly to help and support them. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. If there is no further question, I'm gonna move to the next item and also we obviously have very limited time left. So our next item, item 9 is Haringey Local Area Send QC offset inspection outcome. We have 5 minutes for this this topic. Colleagues will remember, was it back in May or April, we had a inspection, and it's just for us to kind of hear the area of inspection, but I will probably, we will have a follow-up report on this item in the next month. So any question or curiosity you might have in this area, we will have to leave them for next week. So there will be a report that we could all read and process, then ask further question. Jackie, you will be, Jackie will be present in the 5 minutes.
Jackie, would you like me to cover this sort of so that we can save you for the next time? So we're really pleased with the outcome of this SEND inspection. We are very, very pleased with the outcome of the SEND inspection. This is a lot of hard work. We know that this is coming to the next meeting, and Jackie will give a full presentation on the report and also update us to our broader action plan, of which the issues that came up in here are embedded within that. But I just think, but we wanted you to receive this plan early so that you have time to read it and go through it in preparation for the next meeting. The key point here is just to say that there are 3 judgments you can get. One is, as the highest one you can get is the one we achieved, that there's consistency and positive outcomes for positive experiences and outcomes for our children and young people we send. And this is a particular achievement because when we were first inspected in 2021, we had 3 written statements of action. The second judgment is inconsistency in the arrangements and outcomes, and the one that people prefer not to get is systemic weaknesses. So I think on behalf of Haringey's partnership, that we are really pleased that Ofsted has come from the place that we were at to see that we've made significant improvements for our children and young people. It does not mean, and I say this every time, that every child and family gets exactly what they want. It's the system and the arrangements and broadly the outcomes. Our young people finally, you know, if you were to look at education, Jane isn't here, consistently over the many, you know, since I've been in Haringey, have achieved well academically in Haringey. So I'll stop there, and I hope that that sort of gives you, what's it called, a trailer for what's to come at the next meeting. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for that. And obviously we look forward to, yeah, it's a lovely, great report, and we'll have plenty of opportunity to basically have more questions in our next meeting. I just wanted to, yeah, sorry, before any items of urgent business? No. Date of our future meeting is 9th of September. And yes, I just wanted to basically take this opportunity to thank the members, officers who have been here to present, and thank you everyone. We are ready to close the meeting. Thank you for your contribution.
I have an AOB, just to say that this is Bev Hendricks's last meeting. As
Oh,
Bev Hendricks leaves to.
I didn't know that.
Did you?
Where's your leaving?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. For those of you who are new to the panel, Bev Hendricks started in 2019 as our assistant director, and yes, she found the exit route. I am delighted to tell you that this is Bev's first assistant director post, and that she is moving on to become a director of children's services.
Wow. Bev, we want to also take this opportunity to thank you for all the hard work you did for Haringey and our children. Also to wish you well and best on your well-deserved next step of your career. I'm sure you will be brilliant there. But thank you so much for everything you did.
Thank you.
Sorry, we're